Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. As you can see, my partner in crime, Rebecca Johnson's not here today. Her son Sebastian's not feeling well, but she'll try to come on and comment. What I do have is a really great podcaster himself, Sari Ibrahim. He's a financial specialist, private money lender, real estate investor, and member of the Bank on Yourself organization. He's the host of the show Thinking Like a Bank, inspired by the book Bank on Yourself by Pamela Yellen. So he'll be on a little later today, and we'll talk all about being financially savvy. So I'll enjoy having him on here. And so you remember, he'll be zooming in. Your comments might not be posted up for me to read, so I'll try to follow along as I'm on here speaking with him. But I want to say thank you for joining me. Getting ready for the storm coming is probably a little scary in Gainesville. We're usually insulated, but we never really know what's going to happen. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But right now, let's go ahead with the Monday Market Moment. All right, since I'm flying solo, I get to read off the information here and talk a little bit about this versus last week. So remember, we've changed to numbers in each of the areas that we serve for the week. So September 19th through the 26th in Alachua County, which is mostly Gainesville, but all of the little towns in Alachua County, we've had 55 new listings, yet our price decreases are 101. So we're definitely, almost 50% higher in decreases with new listings. And I was actually talking with Sari a little more earlier. He was asking about the Florida market, and Gainesville is insulated. We're actually pretty high. I was actually in Vegas this weekend and talking with a Nashville realtor. We were visiting my sister for her baby shower, and she was saying her average prices are really high, but she's been experiencing these major price decreases as well. And I'm also noticing them in our St. Augustine area, and some other areas are noticing that as well. But Florida, we're still pretty strong with buyers moving over, especially international buyers. So I think the decreases have come because people are getting used to that day to 5 days on the market, and now it's a little longer, and they realize they're not getting the prices they were before. So we're not getting, putting it on and getting 20 to 50 offers, almost 100,000 over. So that's really all it is that we continue talking about. Now over in Hillsborough County, which is mostly the Tampa Bay, South Tampa area, they've had 509 new listings within that week. So that's still a lot of listings. And then the price decrease is 795. So again, they're seeing a lot of price decreases. That was the number one area where people were moving to in Florida when we had the boom. We, just got out of the boom come April. So I think new listings, 509 in 1 week is pretty huge. So I don't know. It shows me that people are wanting to sell. So right now is a really great time to buy, even with the high rates. Remember, when the rates go lower, you can definitely get that lower rate later. So you are marrying the house, right, and not the rate. Marion County, our Ocala area, we have 228 listings, and it looks like their price decrease last week, all of them were right around the same amount, and it looks like the price decrease is still around the same amount. Marion County, a lot of what I notice is South Florida people are moving up to Marion County. You have more land. WEC is there. You've got a lot of industry and places where you can work there and retire there. So it's great. And they've sold 180 in the last week and back on the market, meaning the first or second offer fell through. So now they're coming back on the market or something else happened. Sometimes they're temporarily taken off and then put back on. And then we do have some price increases. And again, we're trying to figure that out because it's not the builders. Oftentimes, though, when they come back on the market, they've replaced the roof or done some major repair, and the buyer still didn't want to move forward. So now they've increased it to cover that huge repair or upgrade. So there you go. Our three major areas in Gainesville, in Florida, we service, in a nutshell, the market. If you have any questions, please post them. I'd love to answer them here all alone, and hopefully Rebecca can get on his answer as well. So let's move forward with Sari Ibrahim. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah, hi, Kristen. It's actually Sari Ibrahim.
Sari Ibrahim. Okay, so not sorry. We're not sorry. We're Sari, right?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So you help real estate investors, business owners, other realtors, full-time employees. Would you even say maybe, first-time investors creating your own sources of financing while also growing safe and predictable wealth all at the same time with the same money?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. I read that and I love that. So I watch some of your podcasts and I know a little bit about leveraging money. So this is a great time to talk about that. But what I find is that you have a couple of other ways about leveraging your money that I really didn't know about. So we'll get into that. And this was all based off of, you started this podcast based off of the book Bank on Yourself, right? By Pamela Yellen. So why don't you talk a little bit about this and, start the show?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for having me on. So you're right. I found out about this concept primarily from reading the book, Bank on Yourself Revolution by Pamela Yellen. So the book talks about how one can become your own source of financing. You could skip the banks, you can skip Wall Street and go directly to yourself to borrow against, especially for real estate. It really helps. Right. So to kind of take a step back, right? Like what do a lot of real estate investors do? A lot of real estate investors use banks. They put 20-30% down, they buy properties, and I'm a fan of that. I've done that myself. I just think that having an alternative in your toolbox also helps too. So this isn't meant to like replace what's currently out there, just more so of having like an alternative method available in case things don't go your way. Like I don't think, and we were talking about this before recording, like I don't think another 2008 is going to happen, right, in real estate. Right. I think that's highly improbable because we have so many regulations and different things between now and 2008 that could prevent or eliminate some of the things that happen. But I do think that it is possible. We are heading in a recession. That is possible, and I do think that the real estate market is going to slow down. It's still booming right now throughout the whole country, but it's going to slow down. So what if like financing is hindered because of that? And I'm not saying that financing will be hindered, but what if it is? What if you can have your own source of financing? So it's kind of one component of what I talk about on our podcast, Thinking Like a Bank, is what if we could, in some situations, replace the banks, not always have to use them? That could be a good thing. Also, what's another problem that real estate investors have and business owners? Taxes. So like we have this correlation, right? With the more money we make, the more money we pay in taxes. What if there's a way around that? And that's kind of another thing too we talk about deeply in our podcast. How to avoid tax, completely avoid tax, not just deduct or not just qualify for tax credits, but also how to like completely have tax-free income in retirement. So we talk about that. So it's kind of like, I really wanted to just share with you those two things, becoming your own source of financing and saving on taxes in the future.
Right. So getting away from the banks, right? And then I know a lot of investors who use money market, right? They'll go to another investor who has cash and they'll borrow off of that, but it's still a loan. So you're saying borrowing off of yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, simply enough. Now, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so you're technically using a vehicle. You're using a financial vehicle to help facilitate that. And a lot of people are surprised when they find out, and this is mentioned in the book, The Bank on Yourself Revolution. So check out that book to learn more about it. Sure. But in the book, it talks about using cash value whole life insurance to become your own source of financing. And as soon as I say that, Kristen, people are like, is this the same thing that Dave Ramsey talks about and Susie Orman, like using cash value whole life insurance? And it's actually not. Okay. This is a way of using high cash value whole life insurance in a way where you have high liquidity initially, high liquidity. So you're starting off a policy with a lot of cash and you're able to leverage that and you're able to keep the policy growing even when you borrow against it. So that's another thing too.
So say you have a policy of like 500,000, right? Yeah. And you borrow 100,000 off of it. You're taking out this money or you're just borrowing it? So it's just another loan, but you still have the 500,000 policy available to you.
Exactly. It's like in real estate, you have a $500,000 house and you borrow 100,000. You're not taking away 100,000 from the property, right? You're borrowing from a bank against the property. Right. Okay. So it does nothing towards the market value. Same thing in this situation. When you have 500,000 in a whole life policy, for example, and you borrow 100,000 against it, it does nothing to the market value of that policy. You're leveraging it.
This is the part that I say that most people have not heard of. I mean, maybe maybe like big time investors, but even then you've probably introduced this idea to big time investors, correct? Because I've read a ton of books and this one I have yet to hear about. It's usually leveraging your money off of the properties you already own. I mean, we have friends that leverage the money off the properties their parents own, and they just pay it back once they flip. But you're saying off of your insurance. So how do we do this?
Yeah, exactly. The first step is you have to capitalize the policy. You have to put cash into it, pay the premiums, and
Hmm.
grow it. And this all varies.
Right.
It could be a single premium policy where it's just one time payment that goes into it. It could be monthly payments. It could be annual payments. It could be a combination of all those three things. You're putting money in a lump sum, then you're adding monthly on top, then you're adding some a year. So it all varies, right?
Right.
It's there are many ways to structure this, and I think that you can some situations you can use retirement accounts that you already have to fund the policy. You could take out equity from a property you have to fund the policy.
Hmm.
You could use your checking account. There are multiple ways of funding a bank on yourself type whole life policy.
All right. So I'm going to put this out there. Any of you have any questions? I know we have some insurance agents, homeowner insurance agents that are out there. So if you have any questions, please post them and I will try to pull them up and read them out so that we can go over them. But this is just mind blowing, honestly, using this. So, again, I've heard, I've used my own homes to leverage, but I've just never gone this route. So, how did you came up with this from reading this book? But you were an insurance agent before yourself. So, did you know
Yeah.
this when you were an insurance agent?
So I didn't know about this thing. I knew very little about. So actually, my first insurance job was I was working at Allstate, just doing auto
Good
and
old
homeowners
Allstate,
insurance. I worked with a lot of realtors, a lot of real estate investors. So that's what I was doing. 8 hours a day was just doing auto homeowners insurance, working with a lot of investors. But when I found out about this concept, it made a lot of sense because of my background in insurance. Like I knew like there's a policy, there's premiums, the insurance companies collecting these premiums are doing investments with these. So it kind of resonated a little bit more. But yeah, I had never, I've been in the industry for about next month will make it 7 years in insurance and financial services. And specifically with Bank on Yourself, will make it 3 years. But I had never heard about it prior to this. So my first introduction was the book, Bank on Yourself. And yeah, you're right. It is mind blowing. It changes a lot of the ways that you invest and save your money. Because another struggle that I think a lot of business owners have and real estate investors have is, do I save cash or do I invest it back in my business? So that's a very common question people have. And it's kind of like a struggle. Like there's pros and cons to both, right? If I save cash in the bank, that's good because I have liquidity, but it's also bad because you're missing out on inflation and opportunity costs. Your money could be working in other places. But then if I have that money deployed, that's good because now it's growing, but also not good because I might need that money for something else in the future. So there's these constant questions that are arising, like, what do I do? And I think that the Bank on Yourself concept creates a good conduit or bridge where you could kind of do a little bit of both. You could save your cash for the future and leverage that cash,
Right.
and then even come out ahead. So what I mean by that is when you borrow from your policy, it continues to grow even with that outstanding loan. So you're making money in your policy. And if you use it for real estate, for example, you're making money with your real estate properties. So it does like two things for you at the same time. You're making money with the cash, the interest on it, plus you're making money with the investments outside of it.
So I feel like there's like two mindsets. One is paying everything cash, paying down it if you do get a loan, paying that down immediately, and then the leveraging idea. So do you change the minds of people who are just like, they want to pay off their house, they don't want to have to deal with loans? Does this frighten them, or does this, help them with the realization that, well, it's still your money? You're not really
exactly.
borrowing
Yeah,
from
I've taught.
bank. You're borrowing from yourself per se, right? It's kind of how I'm hearing it. Yeah.
I've mentioned that before, and you're right. Some people look at like debt as like that's what you have to do. You have to take out loans, and then the better way is cash only, like no loans at all.
Right.
And to a certain point, there's benefits, right? You're not paying interest to anyone. You're just paying cash for things. But then there's a big downside, and that big downside is you're losing opportunity cost on that cash that could have been invested somewhere else instead of just sitting in your home or just in your bank account. That cash could be moving. So yeah, people are sometimes surprised where we schedule this financial strategy call, right? And here I am asking them, do they really want to pay down their mortgage? And they're like, isn't this a financial strategy call? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, so why are you asking if I want to pay down my mortgage? Isn't that a given? Doesn't everybody want to pay off their mortgage? And surprisingly, no. I'm sure you see this in your line
I
of work.
think if you're that mindset of you're going to live in your same house for years and years and years, paying it down or paying that maybe that extra monthly, that 13th month, not a bad idea. But if you are, and I think a lot of, and I don't want to use the term millennial because millennials are now, the older ones are now in your 40s. So, but it's really the younger generations are, there's just always the fact that there's new mindsets. And so we noticed that, like when I got into real estate about 16 years ago, people were staying in houses 10 years plus. Yes. And the average move was maybe 7 to 10 years because we are in an area where there's a lot of movement. But then it went down to 3 to 5. And now I'm seeing people moving within 18 months. So if you're moving to a city just for a job, but you can probably get a job anywhere else, I would say this mindset, and you want to be financially savvy and an investor of some sort, which I think, even the youngest, I'm noticing 20-year-olds want to be investors, whereas, they always thought, I have to be 40, 50 and have my wealth. They're already starting really young, and they always kind of have, but even more so now. So this is just another way of, the mindset of, or changing the mindset to becoming a young investor or starting as early as possible. Although I believe you can be an investor at any age, truthfully, as long as you make good decisions, right? So, do you want to explore that conversation or talk a little bit more about, this becoming more savvy, using your own money, helping, build your wealth from that? I mean,
yeah, definitely. And you brought up a good point. A lot, 10 years ago, people used to stay longer in their houses because there wasn't that much movement. People now are moving much faster, right? Like they're getting jobs, they're going to different, people are more, I guess, mobile nowadays. They're moving more often. So that'll affect your financial planning if you keep moving a lot. And I agree. So if you don't see yourself living in a house for a really long time, maybe you don't need to overpay your mortgage, just pay what the required payments are and then sell it or refinance and then move somewhere else. Or rent it out. That's another common thing to do.
A lot of people are looking into multifamily. Are you having that conversation more and more? I mean, it's a pretty big conversation right now because in our area, the city of Gainesville has changed zoning for neighborhoods from residential, single family to multifamily. And again, there's two different mindsets. This is our home, our community. You're ruining the community. But there's a lot of, again, the younger generations going, I want to buy a duplex or a fourplex. I want to live in one side and rent out the other. So they pay for my expenses. So then I can, after a few years, I can move into another home, keep that property, but I've leveraged that property so that I could pay for my actual home, which there may or may not be there for forever. Are you having that conversation more often with your investors?
Yeah, definitely multifamily. I think it's needed. I think multifamily is needed because there's a shortage, right, of homes. Right. People need a place to live. Also, for example, where I live in the suburbs of Chicago, 10 minutes away from us, there's this huge mall, just like a regular mall that you can imagine with department stores and 100 other stores. And they've cut off half of the mall, and then they're building multifamily units now inside the mall. Right. Not inside the mall, but they're gonna use the mall for that multifamily housing. Wow. And why?
Malls are kind of going away.
Malls are going away.
We all Amazon everything, right?
Right, exactly. So there's this shift, right? Commercial is kind of going down a little bit depending on where you're at. And then there's a need for housing. So I guess it was kind of smart on their behalf for the property owners to transition that way. They saved their property by just transitioning into multifamily, and then rather than keeping it entirely all commercial and retail stores. Right. So I think that's needed, right? People need a place to live. Right. Plus, from an investor standpoint, I think I don't know if it's the right word to say, but I think multifamily is probably the safest, right? It's the safest, the least resistant to recessions and other volatility, because people always need a place, especially if they're all renting, they all need a place to live. Right. And it's not necessarily that the rental properties are going to be directly correlated with the market conditions like single family homes or other properties. I'm not saying that single family homes are more risky than multifamily, but I think multifamily
as an investor, overall, yes. Yeah. I think any investor would agree that yes, it's much better to have multifamily than single family, less impervious to all the rules and regulations. So we have to take a break now. It'll be a little video and we'll come back. So everyone who's continuing to be interested, we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty if we can. All right. Thank you.
Welcome to the small town of Alachua, with a population of nearly 10,000 residents and a sparse suburban feel. Alachua has an average age of 35, making it a great community for young families with a variety of activities, such as Alachua Recreation Center, Splash Park, San Velasco State Park, and seasonal festivals. Alachua is zoned for Irby Elementary, Alachua Elementary, Mabane Middle School, and Santa Fe High School. Downtown Alachua is home to shops and restaurants, as well as the City Hall and a local police department. Neighborhoods such as Windswept Hills, Heritage Oaks, Turkey Creek, Savannah Station, and more are all located just 16 miles from Gainesville. Please visit buysellrebell.com to search for your new home in Alachua.
All right. Hopefully you've been enjoying the show. And right now we are going to take a little break from it and talk about Hurricane Ian, who's barreling down on Florida very soon in the Gulf of Mexico. As we know now, we're not going to know where it's going to hit until it does. And we're not going to know if it's a hurricane and what wind speed and what category. But we always like to be a little prepared, more prepared than not, in Gainesville even as well. So don't forget, now's the time to fill up your gas tank. You also have tomorrow, and any extra gas cans, especially if you have a generator and you're at the outskirts areas. Batteries, working flashlights. You can fill water containers, buckets, water bottles, and you can freeze some of them. And then you can also get, freeze plastic bags with water, so that if your fridge does go out, electricity does go out, you don't have a generator, it does keep it colder longer. But remember, water expands, so don't fill them up all the way. And then again, buckets with water, your tub with water for your pets and to flush toilets. And then we have another set of, there we go. Take out cash. I just took out $1,000, so nice to have cash on you. If you cannot park in your garage, you can consider parking in a covered garage and Ubering home, or getting your spouse or friends to bring you home. Don't forget to fill your medications and medical supplies, including first aid kits, and then make sure you have a manual, a can opener and wine opener. All right. More information on our blog, buysellrebell.com /blog/ are you prepared for hurricane season? Yes, it's very small on the screen. So check that out. And there's lists everywhere on how to become prepared. Don't panic. Don't over prepare. Just be prepared enough. All right. So let's bring back on our guest. All right. Sari, right? Sari Ibrahim.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
The financial asset protection. All right. Let's get into the nitty gritty again, a little bit more about the insurance part of it. So here I am. I've leveraged my house before. I've leveraged my rentals before. I know all about that. How would you speak to me about if I wanted to buy yet another property, but I don't have anything else in properties to leverage? But there's great deals coming up, right? We've already talked about foreclosures are coming up, short sales are coming up. I want to get on that, but I don't have any more leveraging that I can do with my properties. So how do I use my insurance?
Yeah, assuming you already have
Yes,
cash
already
value
have.
inside the policy,
Right?
then yeah, you could, whatever the cash value is, it's a very simple process. Whatever the cash value is, you can borrow up to 90% of that.
Up to
So
90. Okay.
if over the years you've been building up a policy, you have like $100,000 in cash value in it, you could borrow up to 90% of that. And then here's a good thing too. So when you borrow that money, there's no credit implications. It doesn't show up on your credit score, credit history. There's no credit involved at all. There's no personal guarantee. There's no payback structure. You don't have to pay it back within a certain time period. It's just an open line of credit between you and the insurance company. It's a private loan, and it doesn't impact any other loans you have. So a lot of this is another reason why it helps real estate investors, even when you're leveraging banks for real estate properties, when you're able to just tap into cash, borrowing cash from other life policies, the underwriters for those lenders aren't going to say, hey, you have a $20,000 loan outstanding with this insurance company.
Right.
Even if they knew that you borrowed the money, the banks use life insurance themselves. They know how they understand how it works, and they don't count that loan against you like in a negative way, because they know you don't have to pay it back. If you're taking out a loan from, for example, somebody else, and you want to use that with your property, the underwriters aren't necessarily going to like that, because they know that you're now in debt to multiple people, and the bank doesn't want any unexpected partners in the properties. They want to know everybody who's involved, the equity, the loans, everything they want to know. But when it's using whole life insurance, it doesn't matter. You can tell the bank, I'm borrowing $20,000 for my whole life insurance policy from the company, and then I'm going to use that part of the down payment. So it helps find more liquidity that way.
All right. So I have a question here. First of all, this all has to do with the stomach for risk, right? And every investor has different stomachs for risk.
Yeah.
But what happens if the policyholder passes away after leveraging the value?
Yeah, good question. So you have your cash value, right? Let's just say in the situation, $100,000 is the cash value. Your life insurance, so there's two components. There's the cash value part and the life insurance part. The life insurance part, depending on the person's age, is going to be significantly higher than the cash value. It wouldn't surprise me if the cash value was 100,000 and the life insurance was like $1 million. So that means if the person borrowed like $90,000 and then they passed away, then you would take $1 million life insurance and then subtract the loan that's owed. So 1 million minus 90,000, and that's the amount that would go to the beneficiaries. Okay. So in other words, if somebody takes out a loan and then passes away, you would just take the life insurance amount and then subtract the loan that's owed on that.
Okay. So yeah, very simple, understandable. Great question though. So that was from Rebecca, the partner that's usually on here. So thank you, Rebecca. And we are getting down to the last little minutes of time. So do you have, here's another question. Because I know you know this, do I go to my insurance, my policyholder for this, or do I go through you? Or how would I start this conversation in order to pull out that money? Like, did your company do this?
Yeah. So, assuming you already have a policy in place, you can either go through the person who helped you, the advisor, to get the loan, or you can go directly to the insurance company. Now, as far as setting up a new policy, there are about 2,000 life insurance companies in the US. And of those 2,000, I would say only 3 of them could really do all of this cash value, whole life insurance stuff, because it has to be liquid. It has to keep growing even when you borrow the money. It has to be flexible. You have to earn dividends and interest on that money even when it's deployed. So there's only a few companies that could actually do all of those things. The other companies are going to be strictly just life insurance, but using it in a way where you're your own banker. You want to make sure you're using the right company. And then also the advisor. It's really important that you're working with an advisor who knows how to do this, who's done this many times. And that's not just somebody who has a life insurance license, but somebody who actually has like a track record of building out these policies, working with business owners, real estate investors, taking out loans, paying them back. So yeah, definitely you can reach out to us. You could also, search for other, cash value whole life insurance people out there. Okay. I'll be more than happy to give you a free consultation if you reach out and send you a free copy of the book, The Bank on Yourself Revolution by Pamela Yellen.
Nice. Sounds good. And this for everybody or, just the hosts?
Anybody who reaches out.
Anybody who reaches out. They go to the website listed. Okay. We will repost that on the podcast on the link because that's a great way. So I know that I'll be calling you and speaking with you about this. And so maybe a few others. And Rebecca's saying, yes, they can just pay it off. Yep, you can. And then also another question she has before we go, are the heirs going to be able to keep the properties or will they have to get loans on the property once that policyholder passes?
So I think the properties.
Yeah, that's different from the insurance. Well, the properties they purchase, I believe, with that insurance policy. Like if they pull the money out and they purchase a property.
Yeah.
Because it's considered cash, so they would be able to. It just all depends on your, the legal documents that you've signed, correct? Saying
exactly, a good point. Okay. Yeah, so whatever you take out from the policy to buy with, it's the same thing as if you would have taken it out from your checking account or savings account.
Yeah, so super simple, more like cash. Still good question, for someone. Yeah. Again, this is something that a lot of us have heard for the first time, so we probably have lots of questions. And maybe we could do a follow-up podcast on another time. I know you're on podcasts all the time. The last I read was 108, maybe probably 150 by now, maybe even more.
It's 240.
See, 240. See, I'm way far off, so... Yeah, so thank you for reaching out to us because this is great information and we look forward to working with you very soon in the future. So appreciate you coming on. Yeah, and you can find him. Can you put up that again where we're going to find him? At Finn Asset Protection. And you can find you on Instagram and Facebook, correct?
Yeah,
Is
and
this-
LinkedIn too, and
LinkedIn too?
YouTube. Yeah, if you click on that, if you go to that link, it will take you everywhere else. All the
Okay,
other
that's what I was going
platforms
to
from
say.
there.
You can find, you just type in your name and you'll find you. So I actually watch some of your podcasts. I would say if you're really interested in this, get back on there. You actually have an incredible speaker. I can never say his name. Oh gosh, what is his name? Vince. Do you remember he was like a, oh, I'm sorry. We'll go off air and talk about this because
sure.
that was amazing. But again, thank you for being on here. Hopefully we can have you again.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it.
I'd love to. Thanks.
All right, we've got a couple more slides to go through. So Rabell Realty Group has 3 new agents, and we want to congratulate them for joining and tell them we love that they're part of the Rebellion. Trisha Ayub, I never say your name right. I am so sorry. I love you, Trish, though. So we've got Alyssa Whitlock. She's moved over from another company, and we have Mary Blymeyer. So we have 3 new agents. Congratulations. They've joined the Rebellion. Thank you. Hopefully they're listening. If not, next time. And so here we go. Let's do this. Oh, no slides? Oh, I don't see. Okay. Well, K&R Property Management is here for you. If you have a property or many properties, hey, if you have entire complexes or multifamily, we will be your leasing agent, your accountant, your repairman, your inspector, your landlord. We can help you with all of this. And we have lots of questions during the hurricanes that we can help answer, and our partners can help answer. So give us a call, 213-6410. Also, if you're looking to, we can go to the next one, get into real estate or join a team like these 3 lovely ladies who we just presented, call us 559-8820, 352-559-8820. We will help you get into real estate or move your license. And did you know you can also connect with us Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Google. It's a Rebecca slide, so I did it. I'm so proud of myself. Also, join, like, and share, and subscribe our YouTube page by Sell Rabell. And please go find our blog. We have a lot of great information, again, about hurricane preparedness or financial planning. And we'll probably write a blog about this show as well. So, go check it out. Look for it. There's a really easy search button, buysellrabell.com/blog. And thank you so much to the Fiesta Media for always putting on these podcasts. If you are interested in having your own podcast, which I always think you should, first come on here, see how easy it is and how seamless Elio makes it, and then contact him at 352-327-5089. I want to thank everyone who's joined us today, as well as Sari Ibrahim. Hopefully I said that right. I'm terrible at that. Rabell Realty podcast. We missed you, Rebecca. So sorry for Sebastian not feeling well, but thanks for the great questions. Thank you, everyone else. Thank you again, Sari. I think I'm saying it right now, right? Sari, thank you so much. What a great show. See you next week.